Good morning from Athens, Greece. It is 9 o'clock on this Sunday morning, and you saw the video intro of the people of Sri Lanka storming the what was the former residence of the president, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa. And this was the big news from yesterday. The people of Sri Lanka have had enough, and thousands upon thousands of people, they surrounded the residency of the president, and eventually they went in, and you saw the images. They're all over the interwebs. Swimming in his swimming pool, a pristine swimming pool, a massive residence. They went through the rooms and they saw all the things that the president had, and the life of luxury that he led. The president, by the way, allegedly fled the country by boat. This is what I'm getting. There has been video footage of the president fleeing aboard a Navy vessel, and I believe the military did come out with a statement, or the Navy came out with a statement and said that he is still president by law, and we've got to provide protection. Though I do believe that he has announced that he will step down, or he has already resigned or stepped down as a president. But, this has been going on for a while, the protests and just the general economic collapse in Sri Lanka. And it really accelerated over the past couple of months. And, a lot of this is due to the fact that Sri Lanka relies heavily on imports. Their economy is very dependent on imports, and they ran out of foreign reserves. They just couldn't pay for the imports anymore, and it really hit them hard. The COVID, the COOF pandemic really hit Sri Lanka hard. It crushed their tourism sector. And they haven't really been able to recover after that. There's been all kinds of, from what I gather, all kinds of political fighting as well. And it's much more nuanced than I'm describing. But for the most part, you have an economy that relied heavily on imports, and they ran out of foreign currency reserves, and they just couldn't go any further. They looked for help from China, from India. Russia was going to provide them, or they did provide them oil as well to try and tide them over, but nothing worked. They approached the IMF, and they were looking for a bailout from the IMF, but the IMF has its own headaches, and specifically Italy is going to be a very big headache for the IMF. But nothing could prevent this collapse, this economic collapse, and now you have the entire government has collapsed. And the interesting part about the videos that caught my eye was, the whole country was suffering, and they have no fuel and food, power outages, electricity outages, but the president's palace, and it was a palace. That house is massive. I mean, that house looked amazing, didn't it? And the pool, really well kept. Obviously, the president had no economic problems, no power outages or food shortages for the president, and I imagine the entire political class. So what you see happening in Sri Lanka is something that could very well happen across the world. And stuff like that, I'm not saying the exact same thing as what's happening in Sri Lanka, but similar things are starting to take shape in Europe and in EU economies. So this is, I think this is a sign of what's to come in the next 6 to 9 months. I'm not saying it's going to be the exact same thing. You're going to have the same exact dynamics, but it is a sign of things to come. Shortages, food shortages, fuel shortages, energy blackouts, all of these things. And of course, the people understanding that the political class is not going through any of this suffering while they are placing the people in a position of suffering. And I think the citizens of many, many countries are going to start to understand this, and we're going to have a pretty rough ride of things in the next year or two. So that was the big news. What's next for Sri Lanka? I have no clue. Let's see if the IMF does step in. That's not a good thing, by the way. The IMF stepping in is more pain and suffering, because the only thing the IMF knows is austerity. That's it. So the IMF is going to come in and they're going to hollow out whatever is left of the economy. I imagine the IMF is not interested to help Sri Lanka because there's nothing left to pillage. There's nothing there. But the IMF, the only thing that they're going to do is they may be able to plug some holes, but all they're going to do is create bigger holes. So let's continue to monitor this story and see what happens. From what I gather, Prime Minister, President, the entire government is gone or is in the process of leaving, and now we wait for the Parliament. Let's see what happens there and what the Parliament decides to do. So that is Sri Lanka. Look at this tree, by the way. So you see here, and that's being propped up here. Really interesting, really nice. So let's move on. That was the big news, by the way, with Sri Lanka. That was the big news. So let's move on now and talk about, how about the Ukraine ambassador in Germany? He is gone. He has been fired, dismissed, recalled, if you want to use proper diplomatic speak. So Zelensky, he came out with a statement and he said that this is just part of the normal rotation of ambassadors. And he's recalling Mr. Andrei Melnik, the ambassador of Ukraine to Germany, as well as other ambassadors from countries like, let me see here, I believe Czech Republic and Norway, Finland, India. And so all of these ambassadors are being recalled back to Ukraine. They're going to be given desk jobs, the foreign ministry, and they'll appoint new ambassadors soon. But maybe some of these ambassadors, Finland, Czech Republic, India, maybe they have done their 4 or 5 year, 6 year tenure. An ambassador does about anywhere between 4 to 6 years in a country. That's usually the normal rotation of an ambassador. So maybe they've done their 4 to 6 years and it's time to bring in a new ambassador. Or maybe, just maybe, kind of recalling a bunch of ambassadors at once and lumping Melnik in there, the Ukraine ambassador to Germany, lumping him in this group of recalled ambassadors is a way to distract from the fact that the guy was a Bandera nutcase. He was a Bandera nutcase. This is the ambassador that called Olaf Scholz sulky liver sausage. I always say sultry, but he called him a sulky liver sausage. And he was just basically insulting and berating the chancellor and the German government and the German people on almost a daily basis. And I think I've been one of the few channels that has covered Melnik's rhetoric over the past 2-3 months, and the fact that he was a nutcase and a nut job. And I said that many times, that the guy had to go. And the straw that broke the camel's back was his interview on Thilo Jung, I believe a German podcaster. His show where Jung was pressing Melnik about Bandera, and Melnik, instead of denouncing Bandera and the disgusting Bandera ideology, what Melnik did is he said that Bandera is a hero and he supports Bandera, and everything being said about Bandera is just propaganda. It's just more Putin propaganda and stuff like that. So this caused a major row between Ukraine and Poland, Ukraine and Israel. Oddly enough, the United States stayed silent. with regards to Melnik's statement, his support of the NAZI Bandera ideology. The U.S. kind of stayed silent on that. But Zelensky had to get rid of Melnik, bottom line, because the Zelensky government, the puppet government, needs to cover up the fact that they do have a Bandera problem. And Melnik, he let it out of the bag. And so he's going to go to the foreign ministry and just be another cog in the foreign ministry wheel. But he's going to remain in the government, and that's more proof to the point that the Ukraine government does have an NAZI problem. You have very high-level government officials who buy into the Bandera NAZI ideology. So that is the news about Melnik. He is gone back to Kiev, and Zelensky will now appoint a new Ukraine ambassador to Germany. So that was the news there. This was expected. We've been talking about this for a couple of months now. It's a shame that Germany, that Scholz didn't have the guts to kick Melnik out. Once again, it plays to Scholz's weakness, the fact that he's just a weak personality. He's a weak leader. A real leader would have kicked Melnik out with his sulky liver sausage comments. That would have been enough for a real leader to say, okay, you're out of here. You're persona non grata in Germany. But that was not the case. So we also have this story that it looks like these Nord Stream 1, I guess gas turbines, this equipment that Nord Stream 1 needs in order to get the gas flowing to 100%, and that's now been held up by the Trudeau government. It looks like Scholz and Trudeau have worked out some sort of agreement to get these turbines back to Germany and then to Russia. And this has been like, how long has this been going on? A 1 month saga? It's incredible that this has been going on for about a month. And this actually led to a 40% decrease in gas from Nord Stream 1 going to Germany. And this has led to the German government running through their storage. And it's put Germany on the brink of an energy collapse. Something along the lines of what you saw in those videos in Sri Lanka. Looks like they might be shaping up in Germany. I don't know, does Olaf Scholz have that nice of a swimming pool like the Sri Lankan president? I don't know. Maybe the German people will find out. But just joking. In all seriousness, they finally did find a solution to this turbine thing. That's the way it looks. Canada and Germany have reportedly come to an agreement on delivering a Siemens gas turbine that wasn't sent back from Canada to the operator of the Nord Stream 1 pipeline in time. Due to Ottawa's sanctions on Moscow, a decision to return the turbine had already been taken, a source familiar with the issue said on Friday, as quoted by Reuters. A government source told the agency that it would be delivered to Germany first, which will then send it to Gazprom, so Canada does not breach any sanctions. So Canada was not fixing these turbines and sending them to Siemens because they were required. It took them a month to come up with this solution because Canada would have had to send it to Russia. Was that the problem? So this whole dispute over these turbines for the better part of 1 month, leading to a near energy collapse in Germany. This is all due to the fact that Canada was going to send these turbines to Russia. And now, after 1 month of deliberation, they came up with the clever solution of saying, here's the workaround. Instead of sending these turbines to Russia, why don't you just send them to Germany and then we'll send them to Russia. And that way, Canada doesn't break these holy sanctions. You can't break the sanctions. God forbid that you do anything to break the sanctions. I mean, that is like holy law for Trudeau, right? And for the Canadian government. What a joke this is. None of this is true. None of this is believable. If this was really the problem, if the problem that Canada had with regards to these turbines was fixing them and sending them to Russia, this could have been solved within, I don't know, 15 minutes, like sitting around a conference table or making a Zoom call and saying, you know, hey, Justin, this is Olaf. How you doing? And then Justin would be like, hey, Olaf, how are you? And then Olaf could have said, that's my Justin Trudeau impersonation. And then Olaf would have said, look, we need those turbines. Otherwise, we're going to be in deep poo-poo with gas. Okay, Olaf, well, I can't break those sanctions because I can't fix those turbines because I would have to send them to Russia and that would break the sanctions. Okay, Justin, well, why don't we do this? Why don't you fix those turbines and just send them to Germany and then we'll send them to Russia. Is that okay? Okay, yeah, that'll work. That'll mean that we don't break the sanctions. Okay, Olaf, have a good day. Literally, that would be it. Problem solved. 15 minutes. So this is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. BS. Basically, the neocons, because there's reports that Zelensky was telling Canada not to fix this equipment and stuff like that. Look, the neocons, they made a call to Justin. They said, look, Trudeau, you're our puppet and you're going to do as we say. And here's what you're going to do. You are not going to fix those turbines. And we're going to call Olaf Scholz and tell him the same, that those turbines are not coming back to you. And we're going to stall this for about a month because we want to bring deindustrialization to Germany. And we want to force Germany to run out of energy reserves and gas storage because we want to push out the narrative that Russia is evil and it is all Russia's doing that we have this energy crisis in Europe, and we are going to bring Germany down because that is the mantra of NATO. Keep the US in, keep Russia out, keep Germany down, and that's how it is going to go. So you are going to stretch this out over the next month and a half, 2 months, however long we can do this before we see the local population in Germany start to really get agitated. And that's what's happened. You know, the media and the people are starting to say enough of this. This is just too much. When you have schools warning that children will be freezing because of this, because of these gas shortages, that's when you know you're going to have to send those turbines to Germany and then to Russia and resolve this issue. So this was all BS. And Canada did this on purpose. Germany knew that Canada was doing this on purpose, and Canada did this at the behest of the neocons. Listen to this passage from the Financial Times. According to the FT, Germany is now rationing hot water, dimming its street lights, and shutting down swimming pools as the impact of its energy crunch begins to spread like the proverbial Ice 9 wave from industry to offices, leisure centers, and residential homes. This is the key line. The reason behind Germany's slow motion paralysis is well known. The huge increase in gas prices triggered by Russia's move last month to sharply reduce supplies to Germany has plunged Europe's biggest economy into its worst energy crisis since the oil price shock of 1973. Look, they're going to crash the food market. They're going to crash the energy market. They're going to crash the oil market. They're going to crash it all, these globalists. And they are looking to put all the blame on Putin and Russia. That is going to be how they spin this thing. We saw it yesterday when I was talking about the G20 meeting of foreign ministers and how they're trying to blame Russia for all the food shortages. All the food shortages that we have now or that are about to come in the next 6 to 9 months, it's all due because Russia is blockading the port of Odessa, because everyone knows that all the food in the entire world, all the wheat in the entire world is shipped out of Odessa, right? No, it's not. And Lavrov made that point. Less than 1% of the wheat is coming out of Odessa. And I actually believe Ukraine. I think Ukraine is like the 7th or the 8th wheat producer, biggest wheat producer in the world. I don't even think it's like top 3. So the whole narrative is BS, but that's what they want to spin. And now you see from the Financial Times that they're trying to create this fiction that that the gas crisis, that the gas and energy crisis that is going to hit Europe and that is hitting Germany right now, that is just starting up in Germany, is all due to the fact that Russia decided to cut off the gas. They don't mention at all that this was triggered by the fact that these turbines were not being repaired by Canada for over a month and a half. You see, they say this was triggered by Russia's move last month to sharply reduce supplies to Germany. Yeah, they reduced them by 40%. Why? Well, because this equipment was not fixed, and it hasn't been fixed for a month and a half. I mean, that's what they're looking to do. That is exactly what is going on here. Anyway, this has been resolved now, and how many Olaf Scholz's and Justin Trudeau's does it take to fix a gas pipeline turbine? Let me know in the comments down below. I can't think of an answer to that joke, but let me know in the comments down below. Let's move on now, because we've got a really, really funny clown world. So, Trudeau and Scholz, what can I say? So we have a NATO ex-commander, Mr. Breedlove. This guy, he's calling on Ukraine to hit the Kerch Bridge in Crimea. And we have the reports that the Biden White House has agreed, contrary to what they said a week ago, they have now agreed to send 4 HIMARS with long-range missiles. And the reason they're doing this is actually explained by a video that Alexander put up yesterday. Yeah. And the reason they're doing this is, well, a couple of reasons. First of all, the fact that the U.S. is sending 4 HIMARS to Ukraine is an admission that Russia did indeed destroy 2 of the first 4 HIMARS they sent. So the U.S. is just kind of admitting, yeah, Ukraine had 2 HIMARS destroyed, so now we got to send them a couple of more. That's the first point. The other point that Alexander makes is that the Biden White House is sending them these HIMARS with the long-range missiles now, because before the White House was coming out with statements saying we don't want to send the long-range missiles because we don't want these missiles to have the capability to hit Russian territory, and that would be a massive escalation and all of these things. Well, now the White House has done a complete 180, and they will be sending the long-range missiles, allegedly sending these HIMARS with long-range missiles, because, and Alexander, I think, is 100% right, the Pentagon and the Biden White House understand that the reason the HIMARS are getting destroyed by the Russian military is because those HIMARS are too close to the front lines. And so they want Ukraine to be able to strike at a distance in order to keep those HIMARS out of harm's way. Make it a little bit more difficult for the Russians to take out those HIMARS. That is why they're providing the long-range missiles. So they're going to give these HIMARS, and they're going to tell Ukraine to position those HIMARS further back from the front line. Of course, who's going to trust Ukraine? And who's going to believe that Zelensky is going to actually do that? Most likely they're going to take those HIMARS with the long range, and I believe it's up to like 280 or 300 kilometers, the missiles, and they're going to position them on the front lines, and the Russians are going to take those HIMARS out. But you do run the risk of something terrible happening, of something going terribly wrong, something getting through, and that is where this former NATO commander Breedlove comes in. And this is what he said. He said that the bridge linking Crimea to the rest of Russia is a legitimate target for Ukraine. General Philip Breedlove, he was actually the NATO commander for Europe. He said, quote, "The Kerch Bridge is a legitimate target. It doesn't surprise me at all that the Russians are concerned about Kerch Bridge. It's incredibly important to them. Now that the West has given Ukraine Harpoon missiles, I think the Russians have every reason to be worried about Ukraine launching an attack on the bridge. The attack can materialize in retaliation to Moscow tightening its NATO blockade on Ukraine, Breedlove claimed. You see, all the narratives, energy blockade, energy, cutting off energy, creating a naval blockade. We need NATO troops in Odessa. We need to hit the Kerch Bridge. All of the food and energy shortages in Europe are Russia's fault. This is why they keep on hammering away with this narrative of the Odessa wheat and the 40% gas cutoff to Germany being Russia's doing, and they never mention anything about the turbine repair and anything like that. Anyway, Breedlove continues. There are many Western leaders and ex-leaders like me who are having conversations now about what would happen if Russia begins to sink Ukrainian grain ships or if Russian naval blockade goes kinetic. Several people I have spoken to say dropping Kerch Bridge would be a huge blow to Russia. Kerch Bridge is a legitimate target, while destroying the bridge completely would require a dedicated bombing operation. Putting it out of order temporarily should be a fairly simple task, Breedlove said. All of the bridges have their weak points, and hitting them could render Kerch Bridge unserviceable for a period of time, the general added, citing his civil engineer training as proof of expertise. And so I don't know, he's mentioning the Harpoon missiles, but I'm thinking HIMARS with long range. So that is a comment coming out of a former NATO general, a NATO commander, Mr. Philip Breedlove, real nasty guy. I remember Breedlove, whatever. He was a real nasty character. And listen to the words that he uses. Dropping Kerch Bridge. I've spoken to several people I've spoken to about dropping Kerch Bridge. Interesting choice of words. And you can see he's very detailed about, I mean, he's been thinking about it, you know. He's like, you know, if we really wanted to destroy the bridge, it would require all-out war and a huge bombing campaign. But, you know, we've got things cooking where we'll be able to take it out and cause some damage, take it out for a period of time. It means that there are people that are thinking about and plotting ways to strike at the bridge without a massive bombing campaign, but kind of hit the bridge in order to deal a blow to Russia. And they're trying to figure out ways. So keep an eye out for these long-range HIMARS systems that are being sent to Zelensky. I will say this. If, and this is a long if, but let's play it out. Say something does get through and something does manage to hit the Kerch Bridge in Crimea. It would be, I don't even want to think what would happen next. You know, Russia said that they would take out decision-making centers, and I believe Medvedev said that those decision-making centers are not even located in Ukraine. That is what Medvedev said. So that would be a massive escalation. I think you would definitely see a retaliation by Russia on decision-making centers, definitely in Kiev, definitely in Lviv, and possibly elsewhere outside of Ukraine. And I'm sure the only thing that's holding the U.S. military back at this point in time is the fact that they've got dozens, if not hundreds, of NATO high command running the show in Lviv. Everyone knows this. The Russians know this. The collective West knows that the Russians know this, and the Russians know exactly where they're located. And I think the only thing holding them back from this type of strike is a retaliation where the Russians take out all of these NATO commanders who are calling the shots in Lviv. So that is the news about the HIMARS, this crazy general, and Ukraine. One more Ukraine story, and then we'll get to our clown world, which is a good one. This has to do with the fact that those Ukrainian soldiers that the UK was talking about training a couple of weeks back, well, from what I understand, according to The Guardian, they are on their way to the UK, and they're getting ready to be trained by the UK military so they can be sent back to Ukraine and sent into the Russian war grinder. And this is what The Guardian is saying. Up to 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers will arrive in the UK for special military training lasting several weeks. The first cohort met the Defense Secretary Ben Wallace on Thursday. The Ministry of Defense confirmed the training will give volunteer recruits with little to no military experience the skills to be effective in the frontline combat. Based on UK's basic soldier training, the course covers weapons handling, battlefield first aid, fieldcraft, patrol tactics, and the law of armed conflict. The government, which has so far invested $2.3 billion in military aid to Ukraine, has also procured AK variant assault rifles for the training, so Ukrainian soldiers can train with the weapons they will be using on the front line. The U.S. has also been providing training to the Ukraine military with senior officers studying at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas. The U.S., by the way, also sent another $400 million to Ukraine the other day. The Biden White House signed off on it. So instead of money going to the American people in these times of crisis, Biden sent another $400 million right away to Zelensky. So $2.3 billion from the UK. And 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers are arriving any day now to get trained. And these are soldiers, these are recruits, according to The Guardian and according to Ben Wallace and the Ministry of Defense, with little to no military experience. And you want me to believe that these guys with little to no military experience in a matter of weeks or months are going to be at a level where they can be sent back to Ukraine to take on perhaps the best military in the world at this moment in time. Professional soldiers, professionally trained soldiers in Russia. You're telling me that this is the plan? This is quite disturbing, if you want my opinion. It's quite disturbing what the UK is doing. They are sending these men to their certain death. Without a doubt, to their certain death. They're supposedly training guys. They're going to give them very basic skills, and they're going to train them up on a very basic level and then send them to the front lines. Why? So you can somehow stall the Russians. That's the whole plan, isn't it? How can we stall the Russians a little bit more? Because we know that we're going to get a recession, we're going to bring a crash, and maybe we can bring down the Russian economy, or maybe some sort of miracle is going to happen and we'll be able to defeat Russia or get some sort of regime change in Russia. This is the hope strategy. This is what the collective West is relying on, the hope strategy. They're going to crash the economies. They're going to induce a recession. They think they can crash the Russian economy. They think they can bring oil down to like 40 a barrel. They think they'll be able to cause enough economic damage to Russia, and they believe that they'll be able to somehow pause the military operations and then somehow get some sort of regime change in Russia. At the very least, if their plan doesn't work out, at the very least, they're making all kinds of money. $750 billion they're looking to steal from the reserves that have been frozen, the Russian assets and reserves. You have $400 billion getting sent just yesterday. You had another $50 billion in total that has already gone to Ukraine. You have $2.3 billion from the UK, and God knows how many tens of billions from the EU. At a very minimum, all these guys are making money. All of these globalists are making a ton of money while they crash everything else. And the military-industrial complex is doing really, really well. But this is a very, very disturbing, a very disgusting act on the part of Ben Wallace and whatever government is in the UK right now, because these guys that are being trained by the UK military, they're going to get annihilated, and they're not going to slow Russia down. Russia is working on its own timetable. It's got its own timetable. But what are these guys looking for? My suspicion is that you have a bunch of guys. They don't want to fight Russia. They're not going to war in order to protect Ukraine or to protect the motherland or something like that. I don't buy that for 1 second. I think you have a bunch of men in Ukraine who are desperate for money and desperate for a way out. And they're thinking one of two things. Number one, they're thinking, well, I get a ticket to the UK, and then maybe I can somehow make my way out of the training and somehow make my way into out of the military base and kind of disappear into the UK countryside. I imagine that's one thing that a lot of these guys are thinking. And another thing that these guys are thinking, a lot of these guys, is I need the money. Hopefully I'll survive the war, but I need the money. I need to feed my family. I need to feed my kids, my parents. I need the money. Because they're getting paid, and they're getting paid with this $400 billion that Biden sent and the money that the UK is giving. These people are being paid to fight the Russians. So, you know, I think there's two reasons why they're going there. These aren't going to be highly motivated soldiers. These are men looking for some sort of way out of this Ukraine mess. So, with that being said, let's get to our clown world and let's talk about Wimbledon. Boy, is this great. This is so good. So you had the women's final in Wimbledon, and what a disaster Wimbledon has become. Boy, did the UK really destroy Wimbledon. You don't get any points for this tournament, so it's not going to really affect your tennis rankings at all, which makes the whole Wimbledon thing kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say useless, but it's not going to really serve in your overall yearly rankings, which is important for the profession of tennis. It is a profession, it is a job, and the rankings are important. So they took away the rankings, and then they ended up banning players from Russia and Belarus, including the most high-profile player was the number one or number two, depending on where you catch him, Medvedev, and he got banned from playing. So you had a complete debacle of Wimbledon, just a complete mess. But the tournament did go on, and we eventually had the women's singles final, and the winner ended up being someone from Russia, though she is playing under a Kazakhstan citizenship. Make no mistake about it, she's Russian. And you had Russian-born Elena Rybakina. From what I understand, her family lives in Moscow. She was born in Moscow. In 2018, she decided to represent Kazakhstan. She did it for various monetary, training reasons, career reasons. So this happened in 2018. So there's no issue there. But the fact that she is Russian and she ended up winning Wimbledon with this Russian ban on players is, it's so good. It is so good. And let me read you the headline from, let me find it here, from the Daily Mail, which shows that people are just like, they're livid about the fact that after all of these bans and all of these rule changes so that you can deny Russians the ability to play in Wimbledon, you end up having the winner of the women's singles final be someone who is from Russia. And the title from the Daily Mail says, Mail Online says, she lives in Moscow, her parents live in Moscow, she's Russian, fury as tennis fans mock Wimbledon's ban on Russian players competing in this year's event after Moscow-born Elena Rybakina won her first Grand Slam title on center court. Cloud world. Cloud freaking world. I'm telling you, God does have a sense of humor. Absolutely. Anyway, that is the video. Good on you, Elena. Congratulations. Russia won Wimbledon. There you have it. All right, everybody. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out the Duran's channel. Go to the Duran.locals.com, the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.